Hi, and welcome to the webinar of today. It's for Vaadin Spreadsheet in action. We're coming at you live from Turku, Finland. Or if you're watching the recording, then we're not quite as live, even though we're live, I hope. Anyway, I'm Jonatan Kronqvist. I'm a product manager at Vaadin, and this is Mattsson, our expert of today. He's awesome. So, what are we going to show our viewers today, Thomas?
We're going to talk about the spreadsheet component. It's something that we've been working on for a while now, but just recently actually released the 1.0 version of. It's basically a Vaadin component that lets you display Excel files inside your Vaadin application.
Oh, that's nice. So how hard is it to integrate something like this in a Vaadin application?
Well, it's a normal Vaadin component, so basically it's as difficult as adding a table or a button. You basically create the component and then you add it to some layout, and of course you can size it in any way you want. I actually have some code examples here that we can take a look.
All right.
So, what I've done is here, I have the basic Eclipse installation with the Vaadin plugin. I've created a normal Vaadin project. What I've also done is I've added the spreadsheet dependency here. So come Vaadin add-on, and Vaadin Spreadsheet is the name of the add-on. And we're going to use the 1.1 Alpha 1 release today to demo this. This is already out on the directory, so if you want to, you can give it a try.
Could I also use the 1.0 final release?
Yes, of course you can do that. There's a couple of features that we're going to show today, though, that are only part of 1.1, so that's why we're using this.
All right.
So we add the dependency to ivy.xml, and then we need to recompile the widget set. We don't need to see me do it, so I've already done that for you. And the last step, of course, is to add the actual component to your UI. So this is the UI class, and the simplest thing here, create a new spreadsheet and add it to the layout. And that's it.
That looks really simple.
It is.
Cool.
So the result that you see or get is this. It's just an empty spreadsheet. Kind of looks like styled Excel, basically.
So what can I do with an empty spreadsheet?
Well, you can do anything that you can do with an empty Google Sheets or an empty Excel. We can start writing in things here such as hello, or we can even create a formula of sorts. So let's put that 1 and 2, and then we'll write here equals C, that's 5 plus C, 6. And that will give us the formula result. So pretty much anything you can do with a spreadsheet.
Awesome. But I don't like writing cell addresses like that. Can I pick it with the mouse or something?
That's one of the features that we actually added in 1.1 as well. So if you write here sum and open bracket, you can actually use the mouse to select a range, for instance. And with plus, you can add another range and so forth. So mouse selection works quite well, and you can see there's these small highlights as well that tell you
awesome.
what you've selected.
That's really great. That's a great addition on top of the first version of Spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we didn't get it to 1.0, but it's in 1.1 out soon. Other than that, the spreadsheet works pretty much like any Excel sheet would be. You can resize columns, you can of course resize rows, you can add multiple sheets in any way you like here. Pretty standard stuff, really. Anything that you would expect from a spreadsheet.
So is the UI here that I see everything, or is there some kind of toolbars or something that we can add?
What you
easily?
see here is the default spreadsheet. There is no toolbar actually for the spreadsheet component. What we did was we talked to our customers that had expressed an interest in a spreadsheet component, and we asked them, what would you like to see in a toolbar if we created that? The problem that we found was that all customers wanted something different in their toolbar. which meant that we couldn't really create a toolbar that would be good enough for everyone. So we decided not to create one and let the application developers do toolbars if they so wanted.
All right. So how hard would it be for me to build my own toolbar and add it to my application with a spreadsheet?
Well, the toolbar itself would be simple to create. It's just a Vaadin layout with some buttons. The next step from there is actually tying those buttons to functionalities in the spreadsheet, and that's where things get a little bit tricky. Spreadsheet is built on the Apache POI library, which means that we're actually dealing with an Excel data structure and Excel APIs. And to make changes to a spreadsheet, you have to know Apache POI. So you have to know how to get a cell reference. You have to know how to style that cell. So get the cell style and set the appropriate attributes on that. So you can make a toolbar, and making the toolbar is simple. Then tying those actions to the spreadsheet and to POI itself, that's where it might be a little bit tricky depending on what features you want.
Okay.
But creating a toolbar is completely possible.
All right.
Of course.
Good. So you mentioned Excel a few times. Can I load Excel files into the spreadsheet?
Absolutely, of course. Creating a spreadsheet would be pretty useless if we couldn't load Excel files into it. So we support both the old types and the new types of Excel sheets. We have better support for the new type, the XML-based format for Excel sheets. But you can give pretty much any sort of stream in Java. So just a binary stream, or you can open a file or anything, and you give this to spreadsheet and it will load the cool sheet and render.
That means I can load data from almost anywhere.
Yes.
Yeah, great. So if I load my Excel file into a spreadsheet and a user edits it, can I save the changes somewhere and load them in Excel later?
Yes, of course. We give you an output stream which you can then store to a database, or you can create an Excel file and process that further on.
All right. Does it support everything that Excel supports, like macros and stuff?
Well, Microsoft has been working on Excel for quite many years, so we really don't have everything that Excel has. Yep. But we do support most of the basic operations. The one notable thing that we don't support is pretty much macros, and then charts inside spreadsheet as well, or rendering them as you would expect in.
So are you talking about charts that are defined in an Excel spreadsheet?
Yes. Yeah. So of course you can still get the data from the Excel sheet and create your own charts and display them alongside the spreadsheet. But unfortunately, right now we don't have chart support. It has kind of to do with the licensing. They're two separate products. They're separate licenses technically, so we don't want to bind people to buy both.
Both Vaadin charts and Vaadin Spreadsheet.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But we're working on a way to have an extension which would allow you to use Vaadin charts very easily if you have license for both.
All right. So you mentioned storing Excel files in a database, for example. What if I don't want to store an Excel file in a database? What if I just want my normal SQL table to be displayed in a spreadsheet? Could I do that?
Yeah, of course. How you save data isn't really a part of the spreadsheet. You can store it any way you want. Spreadsheet, though, operates only on Excel files. So you have to have the Excel data structure to actually be able to work with the spreadsheet.
So I need to build that myself from the data in the database?
Yes. So there's no built-in conversion.
Okay. What about the Vaadin container API?
That's the same thing. Containers aren't Excel compatible, even though the data structure is similar. So there's really no support for containers in spreadsheet at the moment. But it is something that we're looking into and adding in the future.
Good. So back to the UI and spreadsheets. Does it support a feature like freezing the columns or rows so I can have headers visible by scrolling?
Yes, it's probably the number one most requested feature from the spreadsheet. Of course, many of you probably know the table doesn't have this, but what we did was in Spreadsheet, it's one of the most requested features, so of course we implemented that quite early on, and it's part of the 1.0 release as well. This demo application that you see now is actually a small subset of the demos that we have on demo.vaadin.com, so you can go and check things out for yourself there. But we have a very simple Excel file here. So we have 3 rows that are frozen and 2 columns, and when I scroll here you can see that the frozen columns and panels would work as you expect, and the content here scrolls normally. And of course you can use one column or one row and any combination you want.
Good, that's great. I can show a lot of data. So what about styling? If I have styles on my cells defined in Excel, can Vaadin Spreadsheet load those and display them correctly?
Most of them, yes. We built quite a comprehensive set of style generation into the spreadsheet, so we can read most of the styles that are in a spreadsheet and add them as well to the web. So I have a small example here that just demonstrates the easiest and most basic styles, but rest assured we have lots more here. So of course normal font styles such as bold and italics, font size, font itself, so the typeface, all of those are supported. So you can see a big Times New Roman text here, for instance. Also font colors, background colors, all of that work. Cell borders. Not all of the border styles are supported because some of them are quite fancy and HTML just doesn't support that. So we decided to simplify some of the things, but most of the basic stylings are there. And we even have support for conditional formatting. So the basic cases of conditional formatting and with value-based processing and formula-based processing.
That's awesome.
So I have a field here that is, when it's negative or the value is negative, it's red, and when it's positive, it's actually green. So
just the way I like it.
Yes.
Green red is red and green is green.
Yeah.
All right. So sometimes if I have very complex fields with lots of detailed data and I'd like to show just an overview of that data, it's usually a good idea to add grouping in Excel.
Yeah.
Is this something that we can support in Vaadin Spreadsheet?
It is from 1.1 onwards, so it's another feature that we didn't have time for 1.0. But as an example here, I have some cost estimates for the whole year. So I have 12 columns and then a total. But of course, you don't always want to show the all details. So very similarly to Excel, we have this additional toolbar here on top with where you can open. Sorry about that. Of course, demo effect. It's broken. That's why it's an alpha. But yes, we have.
Maybe zoom out.
Maybe I'll try to zoom out. Yeah, that could be one of them. There we go. So yeah, still a couple of bugs in the alpha left. But basically, we support grouping on both columns and rows, so up to 7 levels deep, exactly like Excel does. So you can have multiple groupings separately. And we try to emulate Excel as much as possible.
All right.
So
that's great.
Hopefully it will work fully even when zoomed in when 1.1 is out.
Yeah, well, demo effects are demo effects.
Yes.
So one thing that would be really awesome would be if I could, instead of typing like dates like as text, I could select them from a date picker in Vaadin. Is that something that's possible?
It is actually. Since this is a Vaadin component, we actually decided that it might make sense for people to add Vaadin components, other Vaadin components inside the spreadsheet. Just as you said, if you want to edit a value, you might want to have a date picker or something. So we actually created the possibility for you to have components inside the spreadsheet. So in individual cells, you can put whatever Vaadin component that you want. If you wanted, you can put a grid inside a spreadsheet.
That sounds kind of perverse.
Yeah, you don't probably want to do that from an UX point, but it is possible. So here we have an example. We have a combo box here with a couple of values. The date field that you mentioned.
Yeah.
There's two different ways that you can have components. One is the component is visible all the time. You can see the examples here. Another one could be a button, for instance. You want an action button for something. And then the other type is that we have a custom editor for a field. So normally the value doesn't actually show as a component, it shows as text, but then when you edit it, you get another component. So we have an example here. When I select this cell, I get a drop down with possible values. And when I select a value and move away, you can see that, okay, it changes back to text, but when I edit it, it's actually a Vaadin component. And these take, again, any Vaadin component that you want, so you can build whatever type of editor you want.
That brings a lot of possibilities. Could I also build something more complex by combining components in a layout?
Yeah, so you can create your own custom component, a normal Vaadin custom component, and then you can add that to the cell. And It can be as complex as you want. Basically, your imagination is the only limit here. Of course, you have to take into consideration that the component has to actually fit inside the cell. So that limits you a bit. But otherwise, you're free to do pretty much whatever you want.
Okay. Nice. So I happen to own a Vaadin Pro Tools subscription, which comes with Vaadin charts as well. You mentioned charts earlier. Is it in any way possible to plot data from a spreadsheet in a chart?
You can get the data from a spreadsheet using the POI APIs and plot that yourself as a Vaadin chart. As I mentioned earlier, we don't have built-in support for Vaadin charts yet. It's something that we're working on and thinking about. But for now, you have basically two options. One is that you add a Vaadin chart as a component, like the demo here, into a cell, and then you display your data like that. Completely possible. The second one is that you take the data from the spreadsheet and then create the chart outside the spreadsheet and put it in the same layout, for instance on top or below the spreadsheet.
Okay. Yeah.
Or you can have a pop-up window, of course.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I happened to see a small flash of something looking like a context menu in one of your demos.
Yeah.
Is it? How does that work? Are there built-in functions in it, or?
There are a couple of built-in functions, yes. So we can, for instance, here we have a insert comment button that you can use, and that inserts a comment to the cell. That's one of the built-in things that we have. Another thing that you can do is, there's a bug there as well. Of course there is.
That's nice.
Lots of tickets coming up in the demo, typical.
Yep.
But yeah, the menu is completely customizable. So you can add your own actions and do basically whatever you want with them.
Right.
So when the action triggers, you can see, for instance, do we have multiple cells selected, and then do something with that data. For instance, create a chart and put it in a pop-up. Or you could merge the cells, or you could create a formula automatically from those selected cells and put it somewhere else. And there's lots of things that you can do.
So how hard would it be to add an item to the context menu?
That's very easy. You can take a look at the demo at demo.vaadin.com.
Okay.
There's a link to the sources as well, so you can take a look from there.
All right, thank you. So when should or shouldn't I use spreadsheet? Are there any cases that are particularly suitable for a spreadsheet, or cases where something like Vaadin grid or table would be more suitable?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of considerations here. Basically, if your data is already in the Excel file format, you have Excel files, then spreadsheet is a very natural alternative, because it's the only component that can actually show that data without any processing. If your data comes directly from a database, as we talked about earlier, or you have a pre-made container, then you might want to use a table or a grid to display that data. So that's one of the considerations. The second one is if you want to have your grid of data completely editable or not. So one of the questions that we get asked a lot is, how do I make my grid fully editable? So I want all of the cells editable all the time. And it's something that the grid can't really do, and it's not built for that because of performance reasons. And the table can be made like that, but it's even more horrible slow. So you probably don't want to do that. But if you want everything to be editable fully, then Spreadsheet is a good candidate for that. You can limit the number of columns and rows in Spreadsheet as well, so you can make it look more like a normal table. And you can even hide the headers and stuff like this.
And I could probably add like custom formulas to some of the cells to calculate something from entered data.
If you do use the Spreadsheet for data entry, then you get all the benefits from the Spreadsheet itself. So you have mouse selection and stuff like this.
That's great.
And keyboard navigation, of course.
Yeah. So, how about support? This is a part of the Pro Tools package, right?
It is, yes.
Does that include support of any kind, or?
The Pro Tools subscription itself does not include support.
Okay.
But we have a couple of, or quite many different support packages actually up on our website. So depending on your needs, there's a couple of things you can do. You can have individual support hours, for instance, or then you can get a support subscription from our website. There's different levels depending on your company size and your needs. But the Pro Tools subscription itself doesn't include any support.
Yeah, all right. So, you showed us a few features that are still in alpha stage.
Yes.
When will I be able to use them in my application?
You can use the 1.1 Alpha 1 already. It's out on the directory and it's out synchronized to Maven, so you can use it right now. Of course, if you don't want an alpha version, you can still use 1.0.2, which is the latest stable version. It doesn't include the formula point to cell feature, and it also doesn't include grouping. And then there's a couple of bug fixes as well that are part of 1.1 that we haven't integrated into the 1.0 branch yet. But other than that, it's good to go.
So what's still missing before 1.1?
Well, as you saw, there are a couple of bugs still left. But mostly it's visual things. So the grouping, for instance, we want to polish the UI a little bit before we release it. There's a couple of styles there that aren't fully perfect, and it's not really what we want. And then there's a couple of open bugs about the new features as well that we want to get fixed before we release a beta.
So mostly polish.
Yeah, it's mostly polished. The features are already there. There's a couple of very small edge cases that aren't working yet, but it's mostly there.
Is there any plans for when 1.1 will be released?
There's not a date set in stone yet, but it's probably, I would say June is a very likely time frame. So as I said, the features are already there. It's just a little bit of polish that we need to do before we get the beta out, and a couple of weeks after that, hopefully we'll get a final version.
All right. I think that's it for my questions. We have some questions from our viewers here. One moment. Mr. Nouri, Mr. Hamza Nouri asks us if it's possible to include the charts in the spreadsheet, and we already answered that.
Covered that.
Yeah. And he also asks if it's, since it's based on Apache Poi, do we support all the existing features of Apache Poi, or as in rendering them?
Not everything, no. Apache Poi is pretty much the same as Excel. It's been around for years and years. We support most of the basic things, but there are still stuff that isn't included. Included in Excel, maybe in Poi, that we haven't touched on yet. The whole area of spreadsheet is so complicated that it doesn't really make sense to implement everything at once. So we think we have a pretty good set of features here, and now we basically want our users' feedback to see what features do they want, what are they missing still, and then we'll take that into account as we move forward.
All right. Okay, so another question from Franco Graziosi on our forums. He asks, does the spreadsheet support drop, for example, drag and dropping a label into a cell to activate a callback, getting the cell coordinates?
It doesn't do that at the moment. No, there's no drag and drop support in Spreadsheet. That's one of the other things that we have on our roadmap, but it's not implemented yet.
All right. Well, let's see. I think that was it for the questions. Do you have anything you'd like to add before we say goodbye?
Nothing really. It's been really fun working on the spreadsheet component. It's been a little bit different from what I usually do, but we'd really like to hear your feedback on it. It's something that we're quite proud of actually, and we want to hear what do you think about it? Would you use it yourself? Is there something that you would like to add, or is something critical missing? Please get back to us on the forum or Twitter, or you can even create a bug report in our track.
Yeah. And when you use it, please send us a note and tell us a little bit about what kind of project you're using it in, and your thoughts and feedback on Spreadsheet. All right, there's still one user typing something into the thread, but I think
we can answer that on the forum.
Yeah.
We're going a little bit long already, I think so.
Yeah, so thank you very much.
Right.
This is it for us, and have a really nice day.